Hello and welcome. My name is Paul Markham. In this series of videos we're going to demonstrate how to install your multifunction device. Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about scanning into a folder on our PC. So a few things we need to do. First thing is we need to set up a folder that we're going to scan to. So I've created a new folder here called scans. Just new, hit new here, or right click anywhere here and go new folder, and we'll call it scans. Now the important thing about this is it needs to be shared out, and it needs to be shared out in a certain way that whoever is trying to scan to the folder has access to it. So it will need administrator privileges maybe, or at least read-write privileges. What I tend to do here is, rather than using the user that's logged into the machine at the time, I tend to use the administrator, or I set up a new account on the machine called scans, or something, whatever you want. So let's just have a quick look at this first. So in here we have users. Now depending what operating system you have, this will appear differently. It could be just user accounts or users. It'll appear there somewhere like that. So I can either use this administrator, but if I don't know what the password for this administrator is and I don't want to reset it, I can create a new account. So I've created one here called scans. The important thing about this here is that you need to have a password on it. The other thing is that they're part of the administrator group. Okay, so you can just go add here, type in administrators here, checks names, and it'll say OK, and it comes up here as administrator. So now this user called scans has administrator privileges to this local machine. What people get caught up with sometimes is they have administrator rights to the network. We need administrator rights to the local machine. So this is just a little user like James is here, like Guest is, who has rights to this local machine here. Okay, so now once we have that done, we go back to our folder. We then go into, sometimes it's properties and sharing, or just sharing, and this it's share with, so we go into the people. Now I've already added scans in here. If that wasn't added in there, it may allow me to do that again. If we go scans, yes, it's already added, so it's not going to come up there. You can search by just putting in the name of the person you want. It will usually come up with just read access on it. Let me just cancel that. I can show you this by just removing this and removing this. And now if I go, okay, it won't find it because I haven't called it right. There we go, scans. Okay, now it is only read access, which is no good because we're going to be writing to this folder from our device, so it has to be read write. If you want, maybe just add in everyone as well. I tend to find sometimes this doesn't work, so I always just create an account or use administrator if I can at all. Now the next bit here, you'll see it says where the target is. So this is the PC, which is the name of this computer here, and this is the folder. I always put it on the root drive, which is the C, you'll see here. You can put it in C, scans, scan documents, or whatever you want in the subfolder in there. I wouldn't do that. I tend to just leave it here on the C drive. The other important thing here is that this PC1 is the name of the computer, okay, and this is your identifier on the network. But you've also got an IP address, which I'll show you here. Now I'll tell you what, let me start from scratch. To get this, you can go start CMD. Okay, if I type in this little command IPCONFIG, it gives me the details of the machine. This 192.168.1.4 is the IP address of this computer. It's its unique identifier on the network. Now this corresponds to PC1, so it can either be this number or it can be this name. They are the same thing. Okay, so we have that set up. We know that this is shared, so the folder is shared. We know that we have rights to it, or at least this user has rights to it. So now let's go to our URL, our embedded web page on our printer. So this, we put in the IP address of our printer. We then log in to administrator login. Now, sometimes you will see up here, this will appear as profiles. In this particular printer, the ES5462, it just comes up as list, and under list we have profiles. So here's our profile. So we're going to create a new profile here. So we need to put a name in here. Now, then the reason you put the name here is that so when you go to the printer and you go scan to network folder, you can put in your name, and so you'll know that this is now going to go to your machine. Now, you can see here I could have put in PC1 there, like I showed you earlier, or I can put in the IP address. So I always choose to put in the IP address, 1.4. Okay. The username and password was scans that we set up, and whatever password we had set up first. Password 123, I think I set up first. Okay, so again, you can use the IP address of this is the IP address of this machine here, and this is where the folder is. Okay, this is the port that it uses, so that's fine. Sometimes this can cause a problem if you have something like McAfee or one of those antivirus programs could have a firewall on it and is blocking this port. This is something that your administrator is going to have to check, but if it's not working after you've tried all of this, it could be that the port is being blocked. It's just security, and it needs to be opened on the local machine. Most of the time it's because this username and password is wrong. So you can either use administrator, and if you have the administrator password, or you can use scans like I set up, or a user that you have set up that has administrator privileges. Okay, so let's have just a quick look through the settings here. Scan size is okay. Whether this is just if it's text and photo, if you're scanning in, it doesn't really matter. A lot of people just leave it like that, or if it's only photos. And in here we need to put in scan #n, or you can call it image #n, or whatever you want to call it. The important bit is this, the #n or #d, as it tells you here. It'll come up with the date if you want, or it'll come up with the number if you want. It's up to yourself. In here is the file format. If you wanted to come in as a PDF in color, when you scan color or mono, you can set it to PDF, or you can have it come in as a JPEG, TIFF, or XPS. So it's up to yourself. Most people would use PDF. Okay, so the rest of the settings are just as you can see there, the resolution, things like that. So let's submit that. Now this will appear in here. So when I go to my machine and go scans and go into network settings, it'll come up with Paul. Or if you have another user, or 10 or 15 or 20 users, you can put them in here, and when they go to scan, they can pick their name, and depending on where you have this pointing to, it will send it into that folder, providing that that folder is shared out for that person, whoever it is, this person here, whoever it is you set up. So you go through the same steps again. So you can send it into anybody's individual PCs. Okay, so now that we've done that, what I'll do is open up the folder, which I have here. So into scans, just for handiness sake, what I tend to do is have a little shortcut here on the desktop for people. But that's it, that's just a scans folder. Right, there's nothing in there at the minute. What I'll do is I shall go and scan in a document and see what happens. Okay, so I've scanned in a document there, and you can see it has appeared with the number here as opposed to the date. So we'll have a quick look at that, and there we go. I scanned it in black and white there. Okay, I'll just cancel that. Okay, and you can do then, you can attach that to an email, or you can move to another folder if you like, but it's just a very quick way of getting your documents scanned into your PC. In another video I show how to scan it to an email, but this is just a nice little option for scanning to PC or multiple PCs. So, quick overview again, we need to make sure that our folder excuse me, we need to make sure our folder is shared out in a network, that whoever is logging into it, the user account, has rights to that. So we made sure that it had read-write access, and we'll have a quick look at that again, because this is very, very important. So you can see here, I could add in administrators there, or I can add anybody in there, but just make sure that they have read-write access, and also that when you do that, that whoever they're logging in as is here, the username, because this is now going to contact the machine here. It's going to ask it for its username, and it's going to ask it for its password, and then it'll send the file if everything goes okay there. So just make sure that that's all set up correctly, and you should get it installed nicely, and hopefully it'll work away fine for you.